you need better ways to study because you are having less and less time become available. So your study techniques need to be more effective so that in the little time that you use while studying, it is as impactful as possible. And my name is Jared, and I am the head coach and only coach at WebLearn. I help professionals balance work and school so that they can advance their careers and increase their future earnings with as little stress and burnout as possible. I was one of those persons who used to reread and rewrite notes, which is not best for me given that I am dyslexic, so reading and writing is just like a chore and it's terrible and it feels pain, like severe pain.
I'm still carrying a lot of pain.
And I didn't know really how to study. In this episode of the Parallel Success Podcast, we are going to discuss 5 high-level studying techniques that you can use when you have less time that still packs a great punch. So the first of these is pre-study. So before I talked about how previewing the material is very important. Well, pre-study is taking previewing like up a couple of notches. How is that? So instead of you just previewing the material for like a class or a lecture, you're kind of doing it for the entire topic that you're doing or the entire subject. So what you would do if you're learning something new, and again, I'm still trying to perfect this, so I'm gonna like communicate it to you as best as possible. You're gonna get all the keywords that you think stick out, right? Don't just pick out the keywords in the order that the syllabus is in or the table of contents is in if you're using a textbook. Because how we learn is that we try to make connections between points, keywords, and terms. So like, ever had like one of those like aha moments, like, oh my goodness, this made sense because this is something that I was learning 2 weeks ago, but it only connects to something I learned today.
Now that makes sense.
Well, some may say, but you're right, but you can make connections that wrong when you think that this thing connects to another thing, but it doesn't. You got to go and change it. So the terms and definitions are not the way for you to determine if you have been learning something to a high degree. Is if you can relate things and conceptualize and give like analogies and like put it in simple terms. The best way that I could explain this is like you are creating scaffolding before you build a building. I don't know if you've ever done like any mason work, well, but as you continue to like build like the second story or the third story, you must have scaffolding there already so that the tradesmen can like lay the rebar and the bricks to build the house, which is your future knowledge, which makes the process of consuming further information a lot easier. The second technique is called gamification. The whole premise of the term gamification is that I do not have to get myself excited to go play video games. Like, I was running hella Clash of Clans back in the day. Clash Royale when it came out, Asphalt 8. I never had a like, geez, I really don't want to play video. I always wanted to play a video game. So this is how you could implement gamification. The first thing is that when we play a game, there's like, we know how it is gonna go. We know how the end is. Like you playing Sonic Unleashed or you playing Sonic Colors, the end of the game is to like beat Eggman. It's just how you're gonna get there. And that is why we could commit so much time to video games, because we know what the end is gonna be. I am gonna get this hit of dopamine when I beat Eggman. Unfortunately, as students, as persons, especially balancing work and school, you don't have that same assurance when you actually trying to improve in your studies. The idea is that we want to try to create that same sense of certainty inside our academic pursuit. And the way that you could do that is that to see ways in which you could track your progress. But if you have a subject and you have like different topics in it that you need to get better at for like a final exam, kind of rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 that where you are on each of those topics. That is can help you be more certain to know that, okay, I am seeing myself progress in these specific areas. In addition, was another great way is like do some form of assessment so that you can see yourself getting better. You do a practice paper at the end of every week or every 2 weeks and you see yourself being better able to answer questions on said past paper. That is be a great way to like track your progress. Second way you could implement gamification is because the thing about video games is that it's like low risk, high reward. So like if I like die on this level with Sonic, I could just try it again and again and again and again. But many of us do not have low risk associated with going to school or uni or doing a course because the course costs money and is only at certain times. So we gotta wait like another year to do the course. And if we fail, that sets us back because then we can't get the increase in our salary that we wanted, so many things. So with that, you could try to like decrease the risk or make it seem less risky. Break down these big tasks, these big ideas that you have, into smaller tasks, smaller learning objectives, rather than I want to be this awesome, great student. Like, what does that look like on a very micro level? What small actions do you need to do? Is it just to like start by getting this question right, understanding what these set of terms mean or how they relate together? Is it simply just probably ensuring that your next group assignment goes well? By you bringing it into smaller learning objectives is gonna feel less risky because all you have to do is the next small step to get to the big goal. The last thing that video games use with reference to gamification to make us like really addicted that you could use to try to transfer to your studying is like a fear of missing out. I remember when I used to be playing Clash Royale and you get like the daily login bonus, and I know if I get my streak at signing in like 30 days, I can get like a legendary card or whatever the case is. You can do the same thing with reference to studying. Have people to keep you accountable, like have a accountability partner, or like have a group of people that you commit to studying with, so that you know that like cheese on, like I can't miss it on the next group study session because I know I can be behind my guys. Obviously, don't make it like ultra competitive, but it's a nice way to also like spike that desire to actually want to engage in those activities. And just a side note, that is actually why we are continuing to try to create communities that benefit students and propel them forward by having other persons who are just as dedicated and disciplined as they are. So that's why we have our private community, the Scholarly Circle. We're actually working on creating a free community for you if you are not at a stage where you want to indulge in that resource. So that was number 2, gamification. Number 3, using past papers. But not just using past papers in the sense of I do a past paper and then look at the answer sheet. There's a better way that you could do it to make it more effective for yourself if you kind of strap for time, especially. If you're doing a past paper, get rid of the answer sheet completely and make your own answer sheet. Many of us are relying on the answer sheet to give us the answer to a question that we are kind of uncertain about. So for example, if I'm doing a multiple choice exam or test or quiz, and A and B are 2 answers that seem correct, but I'm not sure. Say I pick B, I'm going to try to quickly go and look at the answer sheet to see if that was the correct answer. That shows me that there's a knowledge gap. I do not know if it's A or B, and I'm relying on an external resource to fill in that gap for me when I should take this as an opportunity. Like, why don't I know which one is the correct answer? When you remove the answer sheet, any questions that you answer and your confidence is low, that is telling you that is a specific area that you need to target and strengthen because it is a weakness, so that you can be better prepared for when you do get quizzed or whenever your examinations are. In addition to creating your set of answers, how you can take this to an even higher level is that if you have a set of persons to keep you accountable that we talked about before, each person in the group create a past paper for everybody else, and then have those same people who do the friend generated past paper create their own set of answers. So now we gain like super high level. I now have to know the information well enough to set questions for you that would actually trip you up. You need to know the information so well that you could make challenging questions for other people. And to do that, you would have to have a higher understanding of the material. Number 4 is what I call the Moduro technique. I used to use the Pomodoro method a lot, but it had its cons, and I can tell you why. For those of you who do not know, the Pomodoro technique is when you do 25 minutes of study and have a 5-minute break. For those who have a low level of focus and concentration, it's great. I've had many clients, many students before who could barely study for even 20 minutes, and they had to do a 15-minute on, 5-minute off kind of Pomodoro technique. The issue is as you begin to improve and increase, your level of concentration and focus for how long you can sustain it increases as well. So by the time you get to minute 25, you're actually now getting in the swing of things. You're now building momentum. You're getting into that flow state where the time is just passing so quickly and you're being as efficient as you can. And this is where the disadvantage is. So what I would advise for you to do instead of a 25-minute on, 5-minute off, just study for as long as you can and then see when you start to have that nudge or that indication that you are slipping. That's when to cut it off. And what I would say is like a third or like 20% of that time you can use to rest. So if you did it for an hour, you could take like 20 minutes off and then like try again. So it's more efficient if you do Moduro than Pomodoro over the long run. Last is kind of crazy. I very much need to improve in this area, but the last time-saving study technique is sleep. The reason I say this is because, and I could best explain it given 2 scenarios. Many of us who have to balance work and school, we have to get up early for work, go to work, have a long day at work, then go to school late into the night. And then the only time we have to be productive as students is like in the night when we're already tired and exhausted. And I have a lot of people who end up like, being tired, doing work when they're sleepy or trying to cram when they're sleepy. Then the next day they do the exam and they wonder why they did poorly. When we sleep, we consolidate the information that we've been trying to encode and retrieve on our brains when we were conscious. So the best way to put it is that when we are awake, that's the best time for consuming information and trying to make sure it sticks. When we sleep is when that information becomes like, it's almost like when the concrete is set. Throughout the day, we are mixing concrete and pouring it out, and it's wet. But when we sleep, it reinforces that concrete and makes sure it hardens and solidifies. If we continually skip over sleep and don't get as much sleep as we need to, you are going to be wasting your time, because it's like you grabbing some sand and all of it is just falling through. You never consolidated it. So my advice to you is, on those days when you're coming home and you are tired, it's better for you to go to sleep immediately and get it even earlier, just to do half hour of work. So if you had scheduled to do 2 hours of work when you come home and you were tired, better for you to get up and do a half hour of work, because that half hour of work is going to be more productive than the 2 hours you would have done when sleepy. I beg you, use these techniques for those of you who are cramped for time. It's going to make you more effective. Make sure that you can use Prestudy, Gamification, past papers, the Moduro technique, and sleep. Very important. That's the most important one for last to use, given your current set of circumstances, because you have decreased time. If you enjoy this episode of the Parallel Success Podcast, where we help persons like yourself continue to balance work and school, you can check out another one of the episodes right over here.